What's up, everybody? Guys, I don't even know how to say this anymore. Alex Pruitt's freaking killing it. 72 sold. The executives over there. I literally saw an Instagram post today. $10,000 over the selling price, guys. This is what he does. He's going to get you guys into your forever home, and he's going to get you the lowest price if you're buying, and he's going to sell it for super high if you're trying to sell. Right now is the time to do it, guys. I talk to him almost daily about this. He's trying to get me to buy my own house, and now I really want to do it, especially through him. He's going to take care of you guys. Alex Pruitt, 72 sold. If you want to find your forever home, he's your guy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast that brings you all things and all people right here in the Valley of the Sun. With me today, I have a very special guest. She is the founder of Fabulous Arizona, along with many other fabulous states, and she's one of the most famous dog moms in the Valley. Cynthia, how are you doing today?
I am good. How are you? I'm
doing phenomenal. Honestly, I'm so excited because we got a little bourbon in here tonight. We're going to get a little tipsy. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about kind of your life, what you've been doing. And I actually want to start off with, you're from the Midwest as well, right?
I am.
Where at?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay. Where at in Wisconsin?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why the move out here?
Well, my family moved out here when I was like 10, so I've been here quite a while, but thank God they did.
Yeah.
Much better out here.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward. My family members actually called me today, and it's getting really cold back there.
Already, I know.
Yeah.
Summers are great. I love going up there in the summer,
Yeah.
but the other 9 months of snowy, cold weather, I'll pass on that.
Yeah, for sure. And so I talked about Fabulous Arizona. And you have a couple different, like, fabulous states, I guess. What do you call them?
So the overarching brand is Fabulous Media Group.
Okay.
And so we're slowly launching different states. And so right now we're up to 4 at the moment. We'll be launching Fabulous California next month.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so Fabulous Arizona was the first, correct?
Yes. Started that almost a decade ago now.
I read that today. It said almost a decade ago. And then you said you just now started expanding this year, correct?
Last September I launched Fabulous Wisconsin, which everyone's always like, why Wisconsin? But obviously, like I said, I'm from there. So it kind of was an easy one to kind of test out and see how it went, to see like, does this concept work in another state?
Yeah.
And so it was very well received. And so that kind of gave me the green light to move forward. And I think I've got something here. So.
All right, perfect. Well, first, before we dive into Fabulous Arizona, we got the bullet and we need to do a little cheers. So Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course, thanks for having me.
We've had this plan for a while, I feel like.
I know, and I've been basically out of town for a month, so yeah.
Yeah, so I had this set up for a while. If you guys remember the Southwest sampler, Andrea, she came on and we kind of hinted at this, and I was so excited about it because I think you guys were supposed to be like her and then
I
right
think
afterwards.
it was supposed to be the week after or something like that.
A
yeah,
week
pretty
or
close.
2 weeks. Yeah. And I was so excited. And then you had talked about you were launching another state and everything like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, it's a good thing that you're busy, right? During COVID, it can be tough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Fabulous Arizona, just how did it jumpstart? Where'd you get the idea? Why did you want to start it?
Well, my entire background has been in online publishing. So originally I was in working with like national and international women's digital magazines, and then started working with a local magazine, and really just fell in love with like meeting local business owners, hearing their stories, and it's just so much. They're so passionate about what they're doing. It's their dream, whether that be a hair salon or a gym or a restaurant or whatever it is. They just get, really, it's a different experience than, when I was working for the national, magazines that were working with 22-year-old account executives for Target or Old Navy. And they don't, it's not as rewarding to work with brands like that as opposed to these, people that have, this is everything to them.
Yeah. And the small businesses out here need that. That's kind of why I started this podcast. And that's what really drew me to what you're doing is we're kind of doing the same thing, just on different platforms.
Right. Telling people stories.
Telling people stories. Why like a website? Why did you go that route?
Well, because that was what I, fell into out of college was, you know, the digital magazine world. And so that's kind of what I knew. I loved the data and analytics behind digital. You know, you can see what people are reading, what they're clicking on. And, and so it was just kind of neat that way, whether it be ads, like seeing what ads people are clicking on or which articles are being read the most. That from a consumer behavior standpoint is really fascinating to me.
Definitely.
So, and I love how trackable it is. So you're also able to like kind of pivot and, you know, find different ways to deliver more, you know, I guess effective
ways to market. What was your like first year like though? Because I like I said, you just started branching out to other states, been doing this for almost a decade now. First years can be really, really tough for people. What was it like for you?
Well, so for Fabulous Arizona, when I first started, I had a full-time job, you know, for the first 4 or 5 years that I was running it. Okay. So
what were you doing
so I guess
then?
the first years I was working for another
another one. Oh, was it the She Knows?
She Knows is the first one.
Okay.
So I started this after I left She Knows.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I was working, most of the time was for womensforum.com, which is actually a competitor to sheknows.com. But they were based in Chicago. And I was really lucky that I got to work remotely for them here.
Yeah.
I mean, I was up there a lot. So probably every other month I'd be up there for about a week at a time, which I love. Chicago, big fan of the city. But it really kind of offered me the flexibility to continue to build Fabulous Arizona at the same time because I was working from home. So, you know, if I needed to go take a meeting during the day, I could make up those hours working at night if I needed to, as opposed to just being locked into like a 9-to-5 office job.
Gotcha.
So that was, you know, it was a side hustle, but it's still, you know, I mean, I was working 40, 50 hours a week for this other job, then trying to also side hustle this. And so, it was definitely challenging. And it wasn't until I went full-time self-employed that I was really able to do something with this. I wasn't really making any money on it before I went full-time with it. And it kind of was almost like you needed to have that, like, you know, kick in the rear to say, okay, it's sink or swim time. And now I got to figure out if I can make money doing this. And so that I feel like the first few years of starting it versus the first few years of being self-employed are kind of two different stories. Cause you know, it was different having like a paycheck with the other job and it just wasn't that big of it wasn't that important or that big of a deal if I were able to like, you know, make money on that or not. Whereas when it became my full-time gig, it was like, oh, okay, now we got to figure this out.
You got to like make this top priority because this is how I get my income now. Right. Yeah. And it can be kind of scary at that point too, once you finally take that leap. Tell me about that. What was that like?
Oh, it was terrified. And all my friends and family were like, you're insane. Like you're
really? They didn't back you up on that one?
You know, everyone was like, they're like, we believe in you, but
like, that but I tell you what.
You know, because you know, people were like, you need to pay your bills and like I got to keep a roof over the sassy pup's head, you know. And it was one of those things where it was like, you know, I didn't have, you know, it was just me and I didn't have anybody to fall back on. So if I couldn't pay my rent, you know, that was on me and the sassy pups were going to be on the street. So so I just like went out and just started pounding the pavement and, you know, just kind of hitting up everyone I knew, trying to figure out like, okay, how are we going to make ends meet? And that I kind of feel like it almost takes that to really make something happen because until you have to, you kind of get a little complacent, I guess. So.
Complacent's like the best word for that. Because you're like, oh, I still have this check at the other job.
Right.
Do I necessarily need to do that? Okay, like maybe I can kind of slack off a little bit. Now it's like, no, I need to show up at this meeting. I need to show up and meet this person. Yeah. And it can be scary. Yeah. But what was the like very first thing what was like your first article, first highlight, first story that you did?
Well, I mean, again, when I started the website back 10 years ago, you know, there's a lot of content that goes up on the website all the time because there are so many different categories. There's event listings. So I honestly couldn't remember what it was.
I was going to say it might be,
I mean, I know when I launched it, it was spring. So it was probably like spring training related stuff, you know, that sort of thing coming up in the summer of like summer staycations and stuff like that.
What has been one of like the best places you visited here in Arizona doing your job?
Oh gosh.
I know I'm hitting you with the hard questions. We're not even like 7 minutes into this podcast, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like I've definitely gotten to like experience some of the best places in town. You know, hands down, probably one of my all-time favorite resorts in town is Sanctuary.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I'm a big sucker for views. Like I love stunning views. You can't beat like the sunset views at Elements, and so big fan of Chef Bo, and so it's just definitely one of my favorite spots. So I always recommend people, you know, check that out, even if you just hit the lounge for, you know, a couple drinks for sunset. Like can't beat those views there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just at Sanctuary the other day, and the sun was going down, and it was like, oh, you just wanted to watch that. You didn't even really want to get your food yet. You just had to embrace what was going on.
Yes.
And that whole area is beautiful. Like, I was at a wedding there the other day. And that's something that I love about the Valley too, and that's why I like bringing people on, such as yourself, to talk about it. And you know, because people I think sleep on Arizona a lot. You know, people from LA, New York, all these people that are doing amazing things. It's like there's some absolutely beautiful places here, great restaurants, great people, great business people too, that you can just meet. And like I met you, I think through Instagram. I just DM'd you, and we just like started up a conversation from there.
Right.
So I think that's really, really cool what you do. It's honestly tough in the industry that you're in, though. Have you like had battles with competitors? I mean, obviously you mentor a lot of people, but have you like struggled at times because people, you know, maybe snag a story a little early, or is it pretty open for you?
You know, I feel like based on, you know, talking to other people, I kind of seem to have a different mindset than others. I do not care what anybody else is doing. I kind of have blinders on. And so, because to me, it doesn't really matter. I think there's room for everybody. There's room for the story to be told in different ways by different people. For sure. Sorry, I'm a big talker with my hands.
No, I love it.
I gotta watch for the mic over here. I always notice that when I'm on camera, I'm like, oh, gotta chill with the hands. But you know, I think that there's opportunity for the story to be told in different ways and on different platforms, and there's different audiences, and you know, with different people. So you know, I kind of, you know, you have to be confident, I think, in what you're bringing to the table and what you have to offer. And so I've just have never even really paid attention to what other people are doing in that sense. And so I'm just like, let me do what I can do the best that I can, and have confidence in that. And so that necessarily hasn't been an issue for me. You know, trying to go back to what the original question was, because I feel like
no, that was it, honestly.
Route on that, but
yeah, I mean, and that's something like everything's so competitive out here. And honestly, in every industry where you're an entrepreneur, you have to kind of battle with other people. And I actually posted a thing today where it says the only competition should be the person looking back at you in the mirror.
Absolutely. It has to be, you know, how can I do better than I did yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to because I mean, everyone is doing something different. I mean, I don't do a lot of video. I could go look at everybody else and say, oh, I need to be doing more video. Like, no, let me work on, you know, I know what my strengths are. Let me focus on that and do that to the best of my ability. As opposed to, you know, I feel like a lot of people are trying to force things, like TikTok, for example.
Oh
like,
my goodness. Yes.
I know I am not a TikTok person. That is just not who I am. And I get that it's like, it's a thing right now, but like, I would be so forced and awkward on TikTok, and I know it. So I'm just not going to go there. And I just feel like some people force it, and it's not natural. It's awkward. And so, so I think, like, you know, stick with your strengths and play to that. It's total. I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan, and he preaches that all the time too. You know, do what you're good at. If you're a great writer, then go write. You know, that sort of thing. So, so I think that's, you know, play to your strengths. Ignore what everybody else is doing, because someone's always be doing something more or something. You're always going to feel like you should be doing more or could be doing more. So it's a waste of your energy to be focusing on what everybody else is doing.
And I feel like once you try and like follow other people, like you said, waste of energy. But if you do too much on too many different platforms, that can be a distraction as well. You know, when I started this podcast, I was like, oh, TikTok's huge right now. Why not get into TikTok? It's kind of hard to put a podcast on TikTok and get people to watch, because I'm not dancing. Like, you can't put music in the background. So you have to stay in your lane. But you've been doing it for almost a decade. How have you seen it like change and adjust, and how have you adjusted as the times have adjusted?
Oh my gosh, it's changed so much. I mean, because I've been in this industry for, not to date myself, but for over a decade, well over a decade now. So, you know, when I first started, I mean, Facebook, you still had to have an EDU email address to have a Facebook account.
Yep. True.
Instagram didn't even exist then. So, I mean,
it was MySpace days, right?
Yeah, those were MySpace days. I know. I was like hardcore on MySpace. So I mean, things have changed so much. Yeah. And even with like SEO, like, I mean, I remember back when like it was so much easier to rank in search engines, and now it's like near impossible. So, so that kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen so many changes, but it's like you have to stay on top of it. I mean, that's the thing with digital. It's like you have to be on top of it. There's actually a great podcast that I listen to. They come out with a podcast every week. That's just basically like the fact that they can make a whole podcast every week about the number of updates that have happened in the last week on social.
Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah, so you know, I try to stay on top of that kind of stuff, of like all the different changes that are happening, because it's so constant.
Yeah, I mean, there is a level of competition and you do want to focus like we had already said, but you have to stick with the times. And if you can have that little edge over people, it pays off so much better. I know I just updated like how I do video because so many people were like, you need to go to where the person that's talking is actually on camera. What's up, guys? So that was like a change I needed to make because I wasn't doing that, but I want my viewers to understand. And I feel like you have to adapt with it. And it can be tough sometimes because you don't know how to go about it.
Yeah.
But once you figure it out, things can explode. But let's talk about the expansion a little bit. So COVID, unlike to other people, to some people, has been kind of a blessing for you. You've been able to expand to other states. Talk about the expansion. Like, how did it start? How did it get going?
Well, so I launched, Wisconsin last year and kind of figured out like, okay, people are interested in this. This is working. The problem though is I was trying to do everything by myself, and that's just really difficult. The upside to, COVID happening is obviously everything was like in-person stuff was not a thing anymore.
Exactly.
So everyone was looking to social and digital and, really trying to, that's obviously my strong suit.
Yeah.
So it really was kind of a, for someone like me who that's my space, it was kind of a blessing. And, the first thing I did was, I was working like crazy hours when COVID first happened just because all my content typically is like events and in-person stuff, promoting, a lot of the restaurants and hotel content that I had planned out. Cause we're talking spring training, moving into like, summer staycations and that sort of thing.
Post waste management too.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like all of these, really in-person things. And, a lot of the restaurants that I had slotted to promote closed entirely. A lot of the hotels I had, scheduled to promote were closed entirely. So it was like, now I have to completely shift all my content. And so I went and just said, okay, how can I help these businesses? What is the audience going to be looking for? So instead of getting stuck in this like, oh crap, now none of this works and just doing nothing. I was like, what else can I do? So
how to adapt.
So I immediately went to, okay, roundups of who's doing takeout, who's open, who's, what, like all the things that people were looking for, at home workouts. You can't go to a gym, like who's doing digital workouts, that you can sign up for. So, just completely shifted all of my content. And it was exhausting, like trying to, gather all this stuff last minute and all of that. But, I had one of my biggest like traffic months of the month of March and April because I shifted all of my content to stuff people needed. And it was also a way to support these local businesses that were struggling at that time, which is just, truly the passion behind, the website itself. So, so I really kind of took it as an opportunity, as opposed to just, crying about it, I guess.
Well, no, that's a real thing. Like a lot of people they sat down and were like, all right, I'm going to take my month to 2 months because there's nothing I can do. But there is something you can do. You can always find a way. You can always adapt. And that's actually how I found you, was through social media and how you had kind of adjusted and let me know, different takeout and different types of those things. But you did Wisconsin last year. What was the next one after that?
So after that, we did Iowa. Which is where you're from.
Yep, it is. Shouts out Iowa. So this was actually funny. I got to tell this story because I don't remember where I was at, but I was going through my story and I saw that you were in Iowa and you're like, fabulous Iowa launch. And I was like, I think I messaged you some like super smart ass. It was like, there's not much in Iowa. And you're like, actually like, it's pretty cool. And you were in Des Moines, I think.
Yeah.
Staying at the Hilton.
Yes.
Oh man, I got a great freaking memory.
You do.
And I was like, okay, yeah, like it's true. There's a lot of cool things there. It's just a different aspect. It's not like Scottsdale. You have to kind of find the gems.
Very different. What I found interesting is I was over Labor Day weekend. I was in Iowa and Wisconsin, and there were a ton of like restaurants and stuff that were closed. And I was like, that's crazy because in Arizona, like restaurants are slammed like on a holiday weekend. Like it was a very different, it just reminds me that, things are different in different places. And so I think because people, barbecue and do all that and here it's too hot nobody wants to be outside.
Yeah. They're going to let other people cook for them. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's definitely a different, and that's been something I've had to like, think about is like, okay, how do we adjust in each state? Because I want to maintain a brand consistency of, everything has to be fabulous that we're featuring.
Right.
But understanding that it is a different, every state's going to be a little different lifestyles, and that sort of thing. And sadly it was really quiet and, a lot of the towns that I was in the Midwest and definitely a different feel, I suppose, than it is here. Our economy is we're very blessed for how well our economy is doing here.
So blessed. My parents are actually going back to Illinois to when this podcast drops. It'll be like a couple of days. They'll be there for a couple of days.
Right.
But yeah, they were already talking like they have to order food in. Restaurants still aren't open. It's a very, very small town. But when I grew up in Iowa, it was a little bit bigger, but still a lot of my friends locked down still. And it's crazy to think like we're going to dinners, like we're doing podcasts, everything like that.
Yeah.
But the Midwest mentality is a lot different. It's a lot blue collar, but it's also a lot of small town mentality where they're not as aggressive. And that's one thing I feel like I've separated myself from like my family. They still work their asses off, but they're not as like high strung to go out and get the next best thing.
Right.
How has the Midwest mentality like kind of driven you to become better?
I mean, I don't know that it's driven me to become better. I don't, my whole thing is and I feel like this is something important to say because a lot of people think that because I'm an entrepreneur, I think everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely don't think that. I think if you're working, if your dream is to have a family and be like a mom or a dad or, have that 9 to 5 and you love like clocking out and not thinking about it again at 5 o'clock, like, if that's what makes you happy, like kudos to you, go do that. And I think that's kind of more, there's a heavier focus on family and, having that separation of work and home, back in the Midwest. Whereas like here, it's all about the grind, I feel like, for the most part. So there's pros and cons to both, and so I personally am, I've always had that grind. I mean, I worked, almost full time in high school, like,
oh, wow.
And then also was in like every extracurricular activity you could imagine in high school. And,
you've been a social body forever.
Yeah. Then. So it's just like, it's in my blood. It's just like who I am. So I remember I had a couple corporate jobs, never lasted more than, I think 3 months was the longest I lasted at any corporate job. Like I don't do well with like 9 to 5, like
business,
it just doesn't, like it just wasn't working for me. I'm not programmed that way. So I knew like I was going to be an entrepreneur at some point. I just kind of knew that. But yeah, it's just I think it's just a different mentality.
Yeah, it really is. And it's nice to see like other blue collar people out here like working their absolute butt off. And like you said, you can do whatever you want to do. Just I'm always the believer of like, do it to the best of your ability.
Right.
Because otherwise you're kind of just wasting your time, But you talked about fabulous Arizona, fabulous Iowa, fabulous Wisconsin, and then you're going to be releasing fabulous California.
Washington is live as well. I was just
that's
up
what
there.
I was going to bring.
Yeah,
up.
last week I was in Washington as well. So that's live, and then we've got California coming. Still trying to figure out which the next ones they're going to be, like which ones make the most sense. So the way Iowa happened is there were actually 2 different girls there.
Okay.
That
you said this was a good story.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Because everyone's like, why Iowa's so weird and random.
I'm one of them, guys.
Yeah. I know you're like, what are you doing there? But I get back after launching Wisconsin last year, and I get within the same month from 2 different girls. I got DMs on Instagram. One girl's in Cedar Rapids, one's in Des Moines. And they don't know each other, and they both were like, "Can you start a fabulous Iowa?" And so it was like, well, clearly there's a need. The fact that 2 different girls reached out to me about it, and they wanted to be involved, and they're passionate about what. They feel like people don't know what Iowa has to offer.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there are some gems. There's just not a lot.
Well, and I think that's the kind of the cool part about what I've gotten to do by going and visiting these places to launch the websites is finding these hidden gems. It's like there's some really cool places. And as opposed to Arizona, these places have history. So,
very true, yeah.
So a lot of these places, like you go there and there's just like hearing the stories behind like some of these hotels or restaurants that I've visited that have like so much history. Arizona's just not that old to have that kind of history.
Yeah, I think we just hit 100 years, like 8 years ago. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to get to go see like that, those hidden gems and that sort of thing. So
yeah, and I mean, when you're branching out into different states, this was one of the main questions that I had that I wanted to ask you. How do you connect with like the businesses? Do they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? How does that work?
So when I launched Wisconsin, I launched it and people started reaching out to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Which was great. And I think what's cool is that I've built such a great foundation with Fabulous Arizona. So people can go look at that and see like what we've done there. And they're like, okay, I can see where this is going. I want to be a part of it. So that's always been kind of my advice for anybody trying to do, I don't care what your business is, whatever it is, prove the concept, like have some kind of case study, something, to where you can then speak to that to go and sell people on whatever you're doing next. So that's kind of been, you know, when I have approached people for, you know, Iowa when I was up there, and then Wisconsin, you know, to cover different restaurants and hotels and that sort of thing. It was, hey, go look at what we did on Fabulous Arizona, or, you know, kind of referencing those.
Yeah,
those
that is
examples.
your resume as these other websites.
Exactly. Yeah. And people have been very receptive. So obviously, you know, they like what we've done with Arizona. So they want to be a part of it, of the, you know, the potential of what's to come for the other states.
Yeah, and they see the brand and they see the type of following that you have built, and they almost want that. Like we talked about kind of off air, that hotel room that you had at Wisconsin. Like, beautiful view. Like, I wanted to go stay in that room.
Right.
And like right now, I would not want to be in Wisconsin, but I would go to stay in that room.
Yeah. Well, and that's been what, like I said, the cool thing is finding the fabulous gems in each state that, you know, these are the reasons why you'd want to go there. Or if you live there, these are the places you want to go check out. I don't know about Iowa, but in Wisconsin, most people don't leave Wisconsin.
No, that's
even vacationing is like the Dells is about as far as they go. But you know, it's like, even if people want to stay within the state, you know, let's find the cool places that they can go and that sort of thing. So,
well, and not so much this year, but I know one of the things in the Midwest that's huge is like state fairs and county fairs and everything like that. And it's kind of funny because out here there's like mega events, but they're like super fancy. They're like, let's go eat corn dogs and get drunk. You know what I mean? So that, obviously, my dad actually brought that up when I told him I was interviewing you. He goes, tell her about the Jones County Fair. I'm like, Dad, she has people that work there. I'm sure they know about the Jones County Fair.
Yeah.
But those are like it's just cool, different states. Like if you were going to go to like Miami, you would obviously do like certain things that go on there.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool that you hire people that are from there. So then that way they know.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like finding people that are like really passionate too.
Exactly.
You know, people that are passionate, they know the area, they love the same thing of like supporting those local business owners. So I've been really lucky to find people in each state so far that are just like, they're really passionate and excited, and, you know, and want to tell those stories the same way that you know, that's kind of the whole purpose behind the brand is doing that.
So then the people from Iowa reached out to you. Did you know the people in Wisconsin, or did you have people reach out to you who run that?
So for Wisconsin, when I went up there, I mean, obviously all my family's still up there. So my immediate family's down here, but all my aunts, uncles, and cousins. So I literally just like threw the sassy pups in the car and drove up there for a month. And
which is like a 30-hour drive. You've never done it.
It's crazy. Yeah. But I kind of, since I'm such a like go person all the time, it's kind of nice to be like forced to like put the phone down and just like zone out and enjoy. I love driving because I love getting to see the scenery.
Definitely.
So big fan of that. Well, let me tell you, though, I take the more scenic route to Wisconsin.
I was like, do you go up through Colorado, or you go like down through Texas?
I go through Colorado. If you go through Oklahoma, it's a dreadful drive.
Oh, it's just plains.
It's so boring. Yep. I will say, though, driving through Nebraska is pretty brutal. Iowa as well. Sorry.
I know. You don't got to apologize to me.
But yeah, the drive up through Colorado, you go straight through Nebraska, which, I mean, if you know how far that is, I mean, it's brutal. It's just literally straight through. But I mean, I think it's kind of a cool way to get to see, you know, different states and that sort of thing. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so I just drove up there and was like, hey, crashing with my cousins and, you know, figure this out as I go. Cause I was very like, it took me actually a year. So I had the plan. I'd like set up, you know, bought the domain, set up the Instagram, the Facebook and everything for Fabulous Wisconsin. It took me a year to actually really launch it, because I just was like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know the plan. And I kept thinking I had to have it all figured out before I did it. Yeah. And one of my friends and mentors, Alinka Colin, and she had told me, just do it. And that's actually her brand is I Start First. So that's kind of her.
I was going to say, wait, is it Nike? Like, just do it?
But that's kind of her whole thing, is just start. Like, you don't have to have all the answers, just do it. And so she really kind of pushed me to like, because I thought I had to have all this funding and all these people and all these resources. And she was like, just go figure it out. Like, go up there and figure it out. So I went up there and just started emailing a bunch of different like hotels and restaurants and, you know, and stuff like that. And just was like, hey, I just launched Wisconsin. This is what it's going to look like. Go look at Arizona. Cause I literally had just launched the website. So there was like 2 articles on there. Yeah. There's like nothing. I mean, it was awful. I had like 100 followers on Fabulous Wisconsin Instagram.
I know the feeling. That was me in June.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, people were like, but then they went and looked at Arizona and they're like, oh my God, we want to be a part of this. This is great. So people were really excited, and it was so well received. And like that, like I said, people started reaching out to me to like write, and they were just like, how can we get involved? And so that went so well that I was like, okay, this is kind of, now I have the formula down. I know,
sure.
but I had to just go do it and figure it out, and that was kind of what it took. But like I said, it took me a year to kind of just finally pull the trigger and say, okay, let's just jump and see what happens. Yeah. So
sometimes that's what you have to do, and it goes back to that, you either like sink or swim, fight or flight, whatever you want to say. You just have to get there and just start it, because then once you start it, you can kind of stumble along, and then you're going to catch your stride.
Right. Or you get up there and say, hey, this isn't working.
Yeah. And then
it's like, okay, then we're not, that's not the plan. We're not going to expand other states. Like it's working here, well, then let's shift. And it's the whole pivot thing. I mean, that's the name of the game for, I mean, that's been the name, that's been like the word of 2020, but
for sure.
As an entrepreneur, that's always the name, is, the word is like, you got to pivot. You got to constantly be like ready to like move things. Because if you get too stuck in like a plan, or like, this is how things have to go, when it comes time to like, when you hit a bump, like if you're not going to adjust, you're going to, you're going to sink.
You're going to, you freak out, and you're like, wait, I've never had like adversity. What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Wow. Jumping in the car and making that drive. We did it when we first moved out here in 2009. I drove back and forth for Thanksgiving, and then back and forth for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I was only 15, 16 at that time, and man, I was like, Dad, just buy a flight. We do not. My dad's like, we're gonna drive because we can,
with the kids and stuff. Yeah.
Sure, well, and the second time we were moving my cousin out here, but I was like, come on, man, just buy a flight. It's not that bad.
Well, and for me, I mean, like I was bootstrapping it. So it was like the cost for a flight and then renting a car. Like it was going to be like thousands of dollars as opposed to like a couple $100 for gas.
Yep.
Like let's just go figure it out.
Jump in with your pups and just head on the way, which I got to talk about the sassy pups because I just peeped their Instagram and they have more followers than I do. So this is great. But what are their names?
Bentley and Mercedes.
From the cars?
It had nothing to do with cars. I loved the name Bentley, and he looks very like just regal, and so it felt appropriate. And I couldn't figure out a name for her, and because I got them at the same time, they were they're 2 weeks apart in age, and I got them when they were like 3 months old. So
what kind of puppies are they?
A Bashan and a Papillon, bougie dogs. So the names seem
they're
appropriate.
They're little
right?
guys. We have a little guy too. Me and my girlfriend have a little Yorkie, and man,
well, it's nice that they're
problems.
portable. I had a German Shepherd before these guys, and like I couldn't take her anywhere. Obviously, very protective and large, and sheds a lot. Whereas these guys, like they're small, you can take them everywhere. They're easy. So they. I was just like, all right, Mercedes, it is. So I call her Sadies. It's easier. But yeah, they're gonna be turning 10 in November, and actually Mercedes has the same birthday as me. So when I met her, I was like, this is fate, like meant to be. But yeah, so. He's November 1st and she's November 15th, and they're going to be 10 this year. So they're glued at the hip. They've been together since they were, babies. But I've been taking pictures of them since they were, pups. And so they're quite the models.
And they've been going everywhere with you. They've probably been to more places than I have at this point.
Right.
But no, I think that's cool. So like when you travel alone, like I asked Andrea this question, like, do you take people with you? Like who takes your pictures?
Right.
This may sound bad, but like you don't want to sit at dinner or something by yourself. Like, so you have like people come with you or travel with you. So to have like the puppies with you, I think is awesome.
It is fun. It's kind of fun to feel like you're like not alone, but they also
you find
like
dog spots too.
Yeah, no, and it's fun. Like a lot of the hotels and stuff too that I cover, they love that like we're also showcasing how dog friendly they are, and they're very photogenic and cute. So it's fun. But I actually love traveling alone. I think I think it's fun. I remember like once you get used to it though, I know like the first few times it's kind of scary and it's like weird. But once you get used to it, it's kind of like nice to be like, I don't have to worry about like what somebody else wants to do or what they want to listen to on the radio.
I just have my schedule.
Yeah,
like,
I get
can
to
watch
do what I
want to
do.
Yep, the TV. We don't get nothing.
But especially if like I'm dining alone, it's kind of fun to have the pups there because people want to pet them and talk to them, and it's like it's a conversation piece, and they're always entertaining. But
and then you spread your brand, and you're like, hey, I'm doing this. This is actually why I'm here.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, sweet. Let me Man, that's such a great tactic.
Yeah.
Just bring the puppies.
But I have, as far as taking photos though, that's always a little tricky. And especially in COVID times, trying to asking somebody to take your germy phone to take a photo of you somewhere is a little sketch. So I've definitely I bring a tripod everywhere. People are always like, who takes your pics? And I'm like, I probably should do a little behind the scenes at some point of the, the setup that I do to get these shots. But I have a little like Bluetooth could like remote that takes the photos and all that.
You got the full setup.
Yeah, I'm like, I got it down now.
Well, that's what you just have to like kind of adapt with it. And if you are going to be doing that, like I have the tripod too. So like my girlfriend will be like, who took that picture of you today? And I'm like, baby, it was me. There's a timer and I have a clicker.
Well, yeah, especially when I'm in like a hotel room and they're like, who is with you?
I completely understand. But so one thing I'm very big on and that I love about you, so you have the Fabulous brand, but you also have like your own brand. And you actually just dropped, correct me if I'm wrong, is it makeup or is it lip gloss?
It's a lip gloss.
Lip gloss. Sorry, I'm a guy. I don't know these things.
No. Well, it's actually pretty much sold out already now because it was like a limited run. So it was just like a limited edition lip gloss off of the Joan Dominique brand. So she's got her lip dom that she does, and then we did 3 sassy colors.
Nice.
And so I got to pick the colors and the branding and all that. So got to pick the names and everything. So that was fun. But yeah, it's pretty much sold out. There's still 3 places in town that you can pick it up in person. And so that's Southwest Wellness Group, Velocity Style Bar in Arcadia.
Nice.
And
solid spot.
Pampered Soul is the other one.
Okay. Yeah. How did that start though?
Joan just reached out to me. She's somebody that I have so much respect for. Total boss babe, like just hustling. She's got an accessory line as well, so like shoes and that sort of thing. And the lip thing was kind of newer, and she reached out and she was like, I want to collaborate on something. Like let's just talk and brainstorm. Yeah. And we actually talked about like doing something maybe with the shoes, but her shoes are very high end and they're pretty pricey. Okay. And I wanted something that was a little more accessible and a shoe at that price point, I was like, maybe I could sell a couple of those. But I wanted something that, is something that more people could buy and get their hands on. And I had never done a product before, so I just didn't really know, how would people react? Would it do well? I really had no idea. And so it was really cool to see the support. So many people wanting to, like, I think a lot of people bought it just to support me. But then when they got it, everyone's loved it. So everyone was really pumped about it when they got it. But yeah, so it was a really cool experience to kind of see like what it is like to do a product, because I, everything that I've done in the past has been, mostly digital, low overhead, that sort of thing. So having a physical product with inventory that you have to sell is a little bit different and a little scarier. So I applaud anyone that is in that business.
Products can be so tough. Like I just launched my shirts and everything like that. By the way, thank you guys, because I'm sold out on so many. I'm getting restocked here really, really soon.
That's awesome.
But it can be tough, and like trying to build it and going with like another person can be kind of tough. And then trying to put everything together and see the pieces, then you have to do demos. Like there's just so many steps that like I had no idea.
Promotion of it.
Promotions, But how did you go through the process of like creating it? Were you like testing them on yourself? Like how did you go about doing that?
So she kind of like sent me like, here are the options. These are different, these are different color options, and then once we picked the colors, then it was kind of like, okay, what names do we want for these? And I wanted them to be kind of tied to like, I mean, it wasn't a Fabulous Arizona product, but I kind of wanted it to be tied to the, the Fabulous brand, sassy, somehow associated with those things.
I love how it's sassy too.
Yeah.
So like, that's your last name, but I love that. Like brand the shit out of that. Well, it's kind of like with that last name, you have to do something with it, right? You have to. And like, that's like the perfect thing to get into, like makeup and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, because like girls are like, oh, I look sassy or something like that. Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's actually, it goes with your name, so that way you have your name on it. Yeah. And that's like kind of empowering.
I know our bright red color is feeling sassy, so it's kind of like that's perfect for like a Saturday night.
Yeah,
look.
right. Yeah. Oh, my girlfriend and her sister would say that all the time. Like more my girlfriend, not so much her sister, but. No, I love the fact that you guys launched that and that you're almost sold out. That's really, really cool.
I'm just a huge fan of, women supporting women and collaborations.
Exactly.
I'm huge on collaboration over competition. So, I mean, you'll find tons of people who somebody might call them my competition, whether that be influencers, bloggers, media outlets, whatever. And I will be the first one to line up to say, hey, let's work together. Because it's like we have the same end goals. We're trying to reach the same people. Why not team up and, collaborate forces as opposed to competing against each other. So
and that's something like I don't get why people get so mad. Like, let other people do their thing and then collab and help each other out, like everybody eats almost, or like help each other out. Like I had a buddy that came on the show and he's helped me like jumpstart everything that I've been able to do. And so ever since then I've kind of just, try and return the favor to everybody else that's like, hey, I'm just starting this up. Like, sure, like I'll give you a share. I don't have a lot of followers, but I'll do what I can because I want to help people grow. But who was one person that helped you grow when you were starting? Because someone had to have helped you.
I don't.
Or were you just like stumbling through this?
I was kind of stumbling through it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, I don't know how much I want to get into this, but so I have actually been engaged. Fun fact that most people don't know is I've been engaged twice.
Okay.
I joke third
Fun
times.
fact. There we go.
I joke third time's a charm. But the second engagement, I started the business when I was with him.
Okay.
And so he was like, quit your job, like work on this full time. And so I did that. And then it was like shit fell apart. Sorry, is cussing allowed on this podcast?
100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I definitely have a.
We encourage it actually because you seem more real. You know what I
Right.
mean? The people that come in here and are like, "Oh, this is no, like it's some shit. We need to get it on." Here we
go. So yeah, it didn't work out. Kind of had the rug pulled from under me. And so I, ended up going and working for a temp agency proofreading insurance documents. And this was, this was 10, less than 10 years ago. So I'm, if you've ever looked at any insurance documents you've gotten in the mail, just imagine having to read through those. Nobody actually reads those. So to have to proofread them for a job was like mind numbing. It was awful, but it like really lit a fire under my ass to be like, I want to make this Fabulous Arizona thing happen. And I remember all my friends and family were like, let it go. Like, it's not happening. Like, and I was like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And of course had no budget to do it. So I was like, all right, what else do I have to do? The only option I have is to just get out there and let people know what it is. So I literally just any event going on in town, I would just go to the event, show up with a handful of business cards and just be like, do you know what Fabulous Arizona is? And just like walk up to anybody. And I was not like a super outgoing person. I mean, people that meet me now are like, couldn't imagine me being shy. But I'm like, I really had to like force myself. I'd be like literally sick to my stomach, like driving to events, like so nervous to go into these places that I didn't know anybody. I'd be lucky if I knew one other person there. So, like we were saying earlier, like the fact that I know Carrie Pena, like, I'm like, I know everybody in town now. I didn't 10 years ago. So, I would have to walk into these places and just start introducing myself to people. And that's kind of like how I started building the brand. And so that's actually how my personal brand became a thing, which was never an intention. But just from me personally being out at every event going on in town, trying to get people to know what Fabulous Arizona was. People were like, hey, Cynthia's everywhere and knows everything going on in town. So people started following me personally as well. So it was literally just, what can I do that's free that can get the word out? Well,
and you're very personable. So like, obviously like people are attracted to other people that, are able to just like communicate. That's like the biggest thing. If you can have a conversation with somebody for more than 20 seconds, then you can build a brand just off that. Like a lot of people tell me like, oh, you can just talk to people. Like you can get the best out of people. Yeah, that's why I started a show. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and I think also being genuine and authentic is huge.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to be like, you can't just be bullshitting for like 5 minutes and just tell them what they want to hear. You can filter through that. They will know. The right people will know. If you're authentic and are really, really interested in what they're doing, then they're going to be so much more interested in what you're doing. And it's really cool because then they like start to follow you more, then they hear about you, then they spread it just off that 5-10 minute genuine conversation that you had. But no, I love that fact that the temp agency, because I don't know if you've listened to other episodes. It's okay if you haven't. I actually started brainstorming this whole idea driving Grubhub.
Okay.
And I was like, this has got to be something more. Like, I love talking to people. I was supposed to graduate from ASU, which I know you're a Sun Devil as well. And it kind of just fell apart with COVID, and I was like, I don't know if I want to graduate yet. There's not a lot of sports broadcasting jobs, but I still want to talk to people, and I want to tell people stories. So I love the Valley. I was like, let's highlight people here in the Valley. So I started this whole podcast, and it's just kind of taken off from there. But I'll actually go to a story, and I've never told the story to anybody else, so you're getting exclusive content. Yes. And it's great because you also know Christina.
Yeah.
So Christina, just tune it out. No, I'm just kidding. So she actually invited me to her birthday dinner, and I was kind of like, not really knowing a lot of people, and I was kind of like an introvert. I didn't really like to talk. Like I did in this setting, but I don't go out to clubs. I don't go out to bars. I don't just like randomly talk to people. Mm-hmm. So she invited me to her birthday dinner, and I was driving to her birthday dinner, and I literally was like, I want to turn around. Like, this just seems weird. You know what I mean? Like a birthday dinner to somebody I've never met before.
Mm-hmm. And also, you don't know any of the people there.
I knew one person, and I was like, "You better save me a seat, because if not, I'm leaving.
Right.
I'm not staying." And I wanted to turn around. I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, "Babe, I can't. Like, I don't want to go to this." And she's like, "All right, I'll turn around if you want to turn around." And I was like, "Well, we got invited for a reason. Let's just go. If it's weird and awkward, we'll leave." So we went, showed up, met two of my best friends. Their names are George and Ronnie. And then from there, like, it's just like blown up. And so I always go back to that, because you have to make the connections, and you have to be okay with being uncomfortable sometimes.
Yes. So and that's what I try to tell people. They're like, "Oh, Cynthia, it's easy for you." And I'm like, no, it wasn't. It is now, because now I know everybody, and I can walk into a room and I'm guaranteed to know, somebody there.
For sure.
And it, it gets easier after you get yourself comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's so hard though at the start.
It is. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And I think understanding that it is going to be hard, and accepting that is kind of, what you have to get over.
Yeah. And honestly, I got that from my girlfriend, because she does hair. So she'll get new clients, and she has to bring the energy.
She has to talk to people she doesn't know every day.
And so I'm like, all right, I gotta be like that. I gotta be bubbly. I gotta be ready to go. But at the same time, like, it can be awkward. And, now Eric is one of my best friends, George and Ronnie, obviously Christina. I've been partnering with her on a lot of different things. And from there, I've met so many people around the Valley, and it's awesome. And when I saw you knew her, and then I was at a friend's house today.
Well, she knows everybody, and she's one of the most giving people, I think, when it comes to, networking and helping, others.
Yeah, definitely. So once I knew that you knew her, I was like, all right, this is gonna be a great interview. Yeah. But I gotta ask though. So you started these other states. California's coming up. Like, what's next for you?
Well, continuing this expansion, and again, it's still kind of just figuring it out as I go.
Yep.
And I now have an editor-in-chief and a managing editor who are working under me, and this is and I hired them in July.
Okay.
So this is the first time that I've really had a team, and it has been truly amazing. And also just to be able to see, it kind of looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Yeah. You always say that. But
always
right.
in hindsight.
Yeah.
But having people that you can trust and rely on, it's huge. I think the timing though was completely serendipitous, and it was supposed to happen when it did.
Definitely.
And I think having people that you can really trust, because this has been my baby for a decade. And so to hand the keys over to somebody else I was a little nervous. I was like, am I gonna be able to do it? Like,
Definitely.
am I gonna be hovering over her and, kind of making sure everything's
micromanaging.
Exactly. Yeah. And not letting her do her job. Cause she's got over a decade of experience, running, magazines and stuff. So I'm like, she knows what she's doing. I don't need to like
control her. She knows exactly how to make this happen.
Yeah. So I kind of, tried to download her as much as I could on, what, the brand, cause obviously every brand's a little different. But she is just understanding that there's people out there that are going to do the job better than you could. Like, I can't be great at everything. I was doing development and sales and editorial and I'm literally doing every job possible. And so to hand, it over to somebody that can do it better than I can, I go on the websites and I'm like, wow, this looks great. Like, this is way better than what I could do.
Yeah.
So I think that's been huge to be able to let somebody else kind of do that.
Sure.
So it's been growing month over month, and that's been really exciting to see. And then also just, kind of still trying to figure that out, and where, how are these new states going? What is that going to look like as we continue to grow? Now there's opportunities to, for advertisers to sell multiple states to people.
Definitely.
So there's still a lot of figuring out happening. So it's kind of again, having to be open to pivoting and adjusting and changing things as needed as we go.
Well, we can talk in a year and then we'll see where
Right.
it's at. By then it'll be like, hopefully, 10 to 15 states
Hopefully.
and just absolutely crushing it.
Right.
But yeah, and you talked about kind of outsourcing. Now you have, is it just you three or do you have more?
Well, I also have a developer that's freelance. What's really cool is he actually built the WNBA websites. So, which is kind of neat because it was really hard to find a developer that understood what I was trying to do. And I was like, I need you to duplicate this website, but just different branding. Like basically the same. And a lot of people were like, I don't understand. Like, and online publishing, I think, is kind of a different beast in itself too, because you're running ads and there's, a lot more content as opposed to like a 5-page business website. You know? So I feel like trying to find the right developer was really difficult. And I was able to use this company called Top Talent, and they basically like they call you, ask you like what you're looking for, then they go find the person, and like he was the first person. You're supposed to interview like multiple people. You're like, he was the first person. I was like, done, sold. But he built the WNBA websites, which makes sense because it's like every team has different branding, so it's like duplicating that website and just putting different branding on each one. So it's like he knew exactly what I needed, so it was awesome. So I've got him. And then, some freelancers for other things like photographers and videographers and stuff like that. So, but it's kind of like figuring it out and growing as we go here. I don't want to get in too over my head too fast. I think that's a mistake some people make sometimes, is trying to grow too fast.
Absolutely.
Or spend money faster than you need to, or on things you don't need. So I think that's been the blessing of having such a limited budget my entire career, is like you really learn how to like do things like very efficiently.
No, you're 100% right. Like, I fully edit this entire podcast and I'm not ready to give that up. I've had people offer to do it for free. And I'm like, listen, I'm just not ready yet. Like, I love doing it myself. I love like re-listening to everything and like relearning things. And I'm like, wow, I forgot about that part of the conversation. Like, this is amazing. And then I'm always like, are they going to mess it up? Are they going to cut something out that I don't like? Or how are they going to do it? So it can definitely be tough. And I commend you on that, because when that day comes, I'm going to call you and I'm going to be like, Cynthia, this happened.
Right. Well, and it'll probably, when you find the right person, because trust me, I've hired people in the past where it's been like, oh, that was a mistake. Like, it was bad.
Okay. So you've
so
had the bad
I've
experience.
had those experiences too. So that does happen. It's about finding the right people. But then once you do, you'll go back and you'll be like, wow, they did this way better than I could have.
Yeah.
So.
And then, obviously, like, I run my social media too. I don't know if you run yours, but
I do.
You do?
I actually run 10 different Instagram accounts. It's quite exhausting.
I was going to say, like, do you have all of them?
I do. Plus, I am also I have a marketing agency. Yeah. So I also run several different businesses, Instagram and Facebook accounts too. Wow. So, it's very insane. But you get your systems down. I mean, like, it's second nature for me to be on, social media. It's
my girlfriend's always like, why can't you put down your phone? I'm like, because this is it. Like, this is the job now. Like, I have to do this. But it can be tough. And now that I have a hang of it and I'm starting to like, learn the algorithms and do different things, like, you can start to grow. And I hit 1,000. So I was like super excited. I think we talked about that on our FaceTime, but
Well, but you're still, I mean, what are you, 6 months? Not
3.
Even 3. Yeah. Like, 3. That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I was super excited about that, and I had to just like celebrate a little bit, but it's like back to the grindstone, Yeah. And the day will come where I can outsource that, let somebody else run it, and I just show up for the show. But for right now, I'm loving exactly what I'm doing. And that's why I like talking to people like you who have had to do this on their own for a little bit, and I can get to that stage. So
well, I'm like, and that's the other thing, is I've been doing this for a decade. So everyone's like, how do I do this tomorrow? And I'm like, it doesn't happen overnight. So
everyone thinks it's like so quick, but I would have never guessed that you have done it for a decade. I would have been like, oh wow, like she started this like maybe a year or two ago, because you're so in tune with everything that you do. But that's where you have to read up.
Yep.
And you just got to learn.
Yeah.
But we're about to get out of here. That's almost time. Anything else you want to say before we leave?
Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
I just, if you're passionate about something, just keep at it. I mean, there were so many times that were so hard and I could have given up. And if you really like feel that this is your calling and this is something you should be doing, like, just keep at it.
Yeah. I got a second on that, guys, because you can take a different route if you really want to, but do what makes you happy. And if you can make a profit off it, that's just like a cherry on top. So guys, that's the episode. Cynthia, so much for coming on. I mean, this was a great episode. I love just like kind of talking and hearing your story. Hopefully one day I'll kind of be on the same level as you. I'm definitely going to keep you
you'll
in
do it faster than I did. I'm sure about it.
I'm going to keep you on the contact list, so then that way we can kind of bounce ideas off each other. I'm sure we'll see each other a lot more throughout the valley. Guys, that is episode 17. I'm getting another order of shirts in, so if you still need one, I know there's like 7 or 8 of you guys. Don't think I forgot about you. Shirts are coming in. I will DM you guys when those shirts are in. Until next time, guys. Peace.